Hi everybody, how's it going today? Guys, it's JG here with E5DU University, back for another teaching where you are the light, the path, and the way forward, friends. It's all inside of you. So guys, what I wanted to talk about today is this notion of personas. There's these personas that we develop as human beings to kind of categorize ourselves or kind of create a way of being in the world that we can relate to. Also, more importantly, who other people can relate to. And it's so important for us to be known. We're so communal. We need people desperately, right? To help us to be our best selves and to live in community and to support one another. This is the identity that we build to try to fit in, but also to try to navigate the world, the times that we're in, the times that we're born into. So thank God. I've been through a lot of different phases of personas in the United States. I can only speak for myself in my experience here. I'm sure wherever you live in the world, you'll have your own version of how personas were created within your culture. Many of them surround identity, but today I'm going to talk about less about identity and more about cultural personas. So when I was born, I went through the yuppie experience. My parents were yuppies. They had a persona of wealth and abundance that was not always real, right? It was not real. It was a persona. It was an image they were trying to build. Later, it was the Valley Girls in the 80s, right? And it was, this way of being a persona of who you are in society. And then even further, right, I hit the tail end of the hippie movement. The Grateful Dead were still around. And what is it like to be a hippie? What is it like to follow the Grateful Dead and be a part of that culture? Again, a persona. And then it was like the hair band, right? And the first kind of emo people with Depeche Mode and The Cure and the all black and really telling society a message, right? Fast forward, right? What is this person who's evolving in their spirituality and conscious, and what is the persona that's built around that, right? I'm certain that there were personas that you lived by and your parents lived by and your grandparents lived by, etc. And so with this new 5D, with this new sort of consciousness and evolution and spiritual growth, and knowing where we are on this planet, and knowing what our rights are, and knowing who we really are to create our reality as powerful creator beings, what does this look like now? What is this? And I see a lot of personas being built in our culture, and I see a lot of personas being built around what is this rise in the divine feminine, and what is this rise in consciousness, and what does it mean? What is this depth of consciousness that we're embracing? What does that mean to who I am and how I present myself as a human being? And I think it's really important to understand that perfection is not part of this equation. This isn't suddenly being perfect, right? This isn't having to look a certain way. I get concerned when I go look out on Instagram and some social platforms where it looks like being spiritual and raising your consciousness means that you have to be a certain height and weight and have a certain appearance, and that somehow your life has to be perfect, and that you don't have any negative emotions. And then if you do, like, wow, you've fallen off the consciousness wagon. This is not the truth. What is the truth I feel for me, living through many different times, many different decades of experience? There's nothing that can ever beat life experience. You can study, you can theoretically learn the theories, but until you apply them, it's impossible to really comprehend. And so what I invite you to today, if you are on that journey to becoming more conscious, that journey to becoming more authentic within yourself, I feel like the thing that you can hold on to the most to align with that depth of consciousness that you're looking for is honesty and truth, and asking yourself, am I authentic, or am I living a persona? maybe that persona is honestly you, but it really strikes me that why would hundreds of thousands of people, if not millions of people, try to be a certain way? It's not making sense to me because I've seen too much life happen. I remember one very brief example of me trying to like live a certain persona was when I had a conversion experience to what I thought was Christianity at the time. And believe me, I felt that Jesus energy, that Christ consciousness, and I was about 18, maybe 19 years old, barely 19. And I was just in so much darkness. I had been very, very, like I was a cutter at the time, and I just had just a really, really terrible self-esteem. And I, as an empath and a highly sensitive person, I was just taking in everyone else's pain and not knowing how to release it in a healthy way. So I did have an overwhelming experience by myself, which would probably be considered now a Kundalini awakening many years later. But at the time, all I could feel was the pure love of this Christ consciousness. And it was so powerful, guys, that like it literally changed. I couldn't swear. I couldn't say a swear word. I've told some of you this if you've watched my older videos. I didn't want to drink any alcohol. I didn't want to have sex anymore. I didn't want intimacy in that way physically. And I just wanted to be close to this energy. And so the less I distracted myself, the better I felt and the closer I felt. But over time, what happened is, you can't live in that bubble with this you and source energy all the time. We are here to be humans. We're here to have a human experience, right? We wouldn't be here if we weren't supposed to be a part of our society, if we weren't supposed to sort of blend in. We don't have to be these people. We don't have to be anyone but ourselves, right? You don't have to be anyone but yourself. That's the authenticity that I speak of. So what happened to me is I gravitated to other people who were only communing with God, and these were like fundamentalist young kids who probably no one was more than 28 or 29 years old. And I mean, I say they were young kids because now I'm older, but I think I was 19. And they were like speaking in tongues, and they were doing like only Christian things, what they believed. And it was so isolating that, wow, I couldn't stay. And I was like, well, I guess I have to be part of society again. I can't, this whole religiosity and this whole just communing with source energy and speaking in tongues and praying. Nowadays, you'd call it starseed language or something, So all of this kind of circles around, guys. And so what I'm trying to say is your authenticity and your truth is what would be helpful to project into reality, because that will bring you peace. That will bring you freedom. And I'm not saying that you have to be perfect, and I'm not saying that you don't have difficult days. One thing that strikes me so much, so profoundly, when I look on Instagram and YouTube, and there's a lot of like younger spiritual people talking about awakening, talking about exiting the matrix, talking about, building a beautiful life, right? Which are all amazing things. What I think of though is like, probably not many of them have a child. The minute you have a child, like your whole world comes undone. And it's not because it's a torture device, children are not torture devices, but you have to keep, the minute that child is born, you have to keep them alive. That kind of responsibility, that kind of groundedness is something that, wow, I don't know a lot of people who are living the spiritual kind of existence that persona would be able to handle, because suddenly it's not about them anymore, and they can't invest. They're not able to invest in themselves because they have to invest in someone else's child. And so it's something to contemplate. It's something to contemplate about being authentic. It's not about abstaining from certain foods unless that makes you feel amazing. But even the research now, when I've tried vegan diets, I honestly feel terrible. I have such low energy. So like I have to literally add protein. I am by nature, I would say I'm a herbivore, right? Living in a carnivorous body. And so it's like, this is the body I have. I'm a carnivore. And so it's like, okay, that's authentic, and that makes me feel good, and that gives me the energy I need to be clear. Sugar, not good for me, right? So, but these are things, it's authenticity. It's not you trying to like look at young men and women who are running off to yoga and seemingly living this carefree life, but I'll scratch below the surface. And I wonder when what are 2 or 3 variables, don't go their way, or they don't have control over, which happens, especially with children. We can't control them. You know what happens when parents try to control you. It's terrible, right? You hated it. So suddenly, the people that you love most on earth, which are, I'm sure if you don't have children yet, you'll figure it out. They're your children, along with your partner, I'm certain. But these children become like you love them you can imagine how much you love your pet or something, or your friend. Now this is a part of you. You don't have any, when you send them off to school, or when you step out of their reality and leave them with a babysitter, you have 0 control of them. And so you can manifest till you're blue in the face, right? Different variables in your life, and we all do, and that's beautiful and that's important. There are some things though that we have to co-create with source energy. That takes a lot of faith and trust, and it takes authenticity. It doesn't take stopping to drink alcohol. It doesn't mean restraining your diet. It doesn't mean you have to weigh 120 pounds, or if you're a guy, you have to weigh 165 or 70 pounds and be covered with muscle, right? And be this person that's only supportive of the divine feminine. That's not real. And so I would measure your truth, measure your depth of consciousness by the truth that you're willing to see within yourself, the truth that you're willing to create in your life based on what feels free and beautiful to you. Also what feels authentic, truth, authenticity, is the vibration you're looking for, and how kind are you? Even in relationship, we can be very manipulative of other people to get what we want out of, get what you want out of a person, get what you want out of your parents, get what you want out of your kids. But how much are you allowing the people you love to just be themselves, right? How much are you allowing each other to be kind? Just kindness. I'm not saying don't have boundaries. I'm saying, how can you be kind and treat others with truth and authenticity? Because I guarantee you add one variable, like some kind of parent who's not doing so hot, or your child who you can't control has something going on, and all that stitching, kind of like, you learn this over time. It unravels because you can't hold it all together in perfection, and it becomes the imperfection that you hold on to and that you're grateful for because it's truthful and honest. All right, guys, that's my message today. I hope it has assisted you. Thank you for listening. Let's say you don't like this message, but share it with your friends if it challenged you. Maybe this is a challenging message. Okay. There's still value in that, because it's okay to not have to be like everyone else and live these personas. All right. So much love and light, guys. Take care.